dictating the latest horror from the Holy Lands. And so what's strange is that the resonance is lapped down the years, as Midge and John Kennedy has just so beautifully said. And Wembley doesn't look that sort of different. I expected to look mega and new, and it just looks as sort of crappy as before, really. You know?
Was it vaguely emotional listening to the performances from that day? You're over it now.
Because I'm blue in the face listening to fucking Freddie Mercury. I'm saying, where's the rats? You know, where's Ultravox? Well, not Ultravox, obviously, but I mean.
Oh, Paul Mitchell hasn't got a microphone.
It's extraordinary that the musical is extraordinary, as Midge said. Everything Midge said, you know, I completely concur with. I mean, we couldn't possibly know that 40 years down the track that the issue would be as vital, that the world and its emotional bandwidth can hardly deal with Gaza and Ukraine and Trump and all that evil, and accept that in Sudan as we speak 2.5 million children are being forced to starve as an instrument of war because America has decided not to send any grain, that 5 million people in Africa are in peril of their lives simply because they're suffering from AIDS, and Trump has decided that that's not fun anymore. So for us, it's just like that, and that's boring, and it's not what these people want to hear. But what the musical does is exactly what Midge does. It brings it to a different generation and the possibility of what individuals can do together. And as John Kennedy said, it refutes Thatcher's dictum that there's no such thing as society. What happened 40 years ago at Wembley was to lay that to rest, that there is such a thing as society, that human beings do care about each other, and that they rise above the contemporary political gestalt.
I just want to move to Craig before we go to Craig next. How was it being on stage performing I Don't Like Mondays in front of this man here?
Fucking brilliant. If I could just get
So you can't tell us apart, can you? It's less terrifying now. The first time we were in rehearsals and Luke sort of said, oh, by the way, you know, Bob's going to be in today. And Bob, of course, being Bob, sat right on the front, right underneath where I was singing. That was pretty terrifying. But he's been around through most of the rehearsal period and has been so warm and generous with me and given me so much more information than you could wish for as an actor. So it's less frightening now. But yeah, I still feel a responsibility.
Did you get any notes from Bob at all?
Maybe a few. I got sort of little gems, really, little stories about things that make their way into the show that I just thought, you know, were either slightly fictional or they were fun. But it's true. I didn't realise about the tax situation with Margaret Thatcher, and that Bob did actually cycle to 10 Downing Street with his little dog Growler in the basket and go and visit Margaret Thatcher and get that VAT back from the sales of the single. So that's, you know, the little things like little gems like that were incredible.
Well, and Bob, for you, what was it important to make a point of with this musical? Because you must have questioned whether it was worth it. What was the point of it? What did you really, really want to get out of it?
I thought potentially it's not, because as Midge says, we're not familiar with this end of stuff. And I've been to musical, but I'm a sort of Rodgers and Hammerstein guy. You know, Oklahoma, top speed, the overture, driving down the motorway, fucking Lord, you know. John O'Farrell and Luke and Jamie, the writer, the director and producer, came around, and I was mortified by the script. You know, you're reading a version of the self, and my main thing was that it has to be, and again, I'm sorry for boring people here, it has to be politically pertinent. It has to be, again, exactly what John and Midge said, it has to be about what it was supposed to be about, which everyone 40 years ago understood. But these days it's about Freddie, genius, and all of that. And what the musical does for us is put it in a contemporary perspective. When you hear My Generation sung and arranged like that, you go, absolutely. I took Pete Townsend to see the show, and he couldn't imagine his song, which is beyond anthemic. It's one of the pillars upon which rock and roll stands, and he just clutched my knee, and at that moment I knew he was thinking, should I re-record this like that? But you know what Matt has done with the arrangements, again reiterating Midge, it's so weird as musicians to hear classics put together for an audience today. And that's largely the guy sitting beside me, and it's O'Farrell getting his head around kind of what we wanted and what he knew was necessary to have a hit West End show. And that was the task to him. And I was angry a lot of the time, and he tolerated that anger and ignored largely what I said. So I have to consult with Luke. Said, I'll come to that, Bob. That was the inevitable thing. He never came to it. And so those things are there. So, it was these three people. It was very little to do with me or the Band Aid Trust. Kennedy is sort of the CEO of the Band Aid Trust. He made sure the business was right, and we just made some of the detailing correct.
Luke, let's talk to you. You're the director of the show. Tell me about the creative process for you, because I can't imagine it was smooth sailing.
It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
There we go.
It comes with a huge responsibility. The reason I wanted to do this was it's very rare that you get to do your job while also doing something good in the world. And when this was first presented to me, there's never been a show like this that has a charitable model at its very heart. And that really is something incredible to be a part of. But also, my mother was here at Live Aid in this stadium almost 40 years ago. And she used to tell me about how this day meant so much to her. So I feel a huge responsibility both for the Trust, for the amazing work they do, for the people who are here at this concert for that one day, and also the people around the world who this means so much to. But it's a process full of disagreements.
Tell us some stories, Luke. Go on, tell us some stories.
I'm not sure I'm allowed.
To the cast up there.
Because
I know.
I only use eloquent language without swearing. So, we have stopped at nothing to make it the very best it could be. We had an amazing time at the Old Vic. When we went to Toronto, we made changes day after day after day to keep working on the show. And as we come to the Shaftesbury, we continue to just tweak it to make sure it's the very, very best it could be. Because, we feel this huge responsibility.
And Kelly, for you, can you tell us what message do you hope that audiences will take away from the show?
I think at the heart of the show is music, and music's so powerful and it unites us. And so I hope people will leave feeling like we can come together and keep making a change and keep making a difference. And I hope this show empowers us to do so.
The cast were incredible, all the artists who were there on stage, immense amount of talent, also young. It was really seriously impressive. Bob, is there anything else you'd like to add? I think we'll give the last word to you. Yeah, it's always wise.
When we all pitched up, I go to the theatre quite a lot. I have never, ever, so in all that time of theatre, I'm old, in all that time I've never seen at half-time a standing ovation. And night after night, whether it was Toronto or whether it was the Old Vic in London, night after night, they just took them 5 minutes to go to the bar. And it's just extraordinary. I failed to mention the cast. When I go to the workshops, I thought workshops engineers sort of worked in, but apparently these guys do too. And the amount, the energy, the input, the constant instructions from the choreographer, the director, the writer writing on the hoof. It was a phenomenal experience to even be a sort of sideshow to. And when we saw the opening night in London, all of us were there, all the Band Aid Six, as I call us. For 40 years we've done this. And it was very moving. And, but we were as one with the audience. It's odd at first to have Craig. Craig, by the way, this is the weirdest thing. At the age of 9 in Liverpool, his party trick, which his granny insisted he do, was get on the kitchen table and do a Bob Geldof impersonation. So
it was written in the stars.
It was meant to be, clearly.
It was meant to be.
Destiny was written into this, this musical. It's a phenomenal piece of work.
Yeah.
And it could only be, I read something that it's another jukebox musical. Dude, it is the global jukebox. It can't be anything else. That's what the concert was. We called it the global jukebox. It was hit after hit after hit. By definition, it has to be. But the achievement is to make that sense of 40 years ago, that sense of it, to make that vivid and relevant to now. And that's what this has done. And we're very grateful for that.
Did the cast watch the original Live Aid, Luke? What did you do? Have they all seen it? Because you are so super young, and I'd imagine that you needed to see the concert to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think a big part of what we wanted to do was not impersonations of the artists. So we've seen the concert, we've watched the recordings, but most importantly, it's been about putting a new generation of talent on stage to find their versions of these incredible songs. So yeah, we've watched it, and actually there's a new documentary coming out about Live Aid that's been a big sort of reference point for us as well. But ultimately, it's been about finding our own versions and not being a karaoke version of Live Aid.
We will leave you to enjoy being here today at Wembley Stadium and remember everything that happened at Live Aid, and then go and see the show as well. So thank you so much indeed, all of you. Thank you very much indeed.
Can I just say that on Live Aid Week, as it's now being called on radio and television, there's a 3 1-hour documentary on the BBC, 4:45 minutes on CNN. It'll be the gala day for everyone here in the musical. A book coming out of the same week. So that'll be a week when once again that spirit, I would love if that spirit suddenly took over the country again. Nothing to do with Midge or I, it just happened. And if that happened again, then once again we can, this sounds pious, 40 years of piety, you'll forgive me, and once again we'll consider those who are right this second in mortal agony in Sudan. We'll consider the gang-raped women who are broken and who are having their bandages ripped off them by USAID and the people who've been fired there, and those panicked children who've had nothing to eat now for several days. So if the country could be alive to that during that week, then everything that John and Luke and Jamie have tried to do, and the cast, will be not just successful, but will carry on to the next moment when we need it again. Thank you.